Since moving out of my flat, I've been really struggling to find a nice workshop space to work on my bikes. I need somewhere dry and where I can make a mess if needed. I've been searching everywhere, but I just can't find a big enough space. The motorhome almost worked, but I wanted somewhere with more spiders. Nothing in there except your standard boring motorhome scorpions. Now we're talking. Although there is such thing as too many spiders. No thanks. Last Chance Saloon. And what a flipping jackpot! Just the right ratio of stains, spiders and space. Also, 0 motorhome scorpions. I'll just make myself at home. Here's my stuff. Some stuff is new, some stuff is old, some stuff was bought and some stuff was given. Sadly, I no longer get to see the cute thief, so none of this stuff was stolen. No matter how I got it, this is some pretty pimp stuff indeed. The keen-eyed would have seen rim brake parts. Yes, this means it's time for a new mother trucking comp bike. And of course, no comp bike is going to do well without a frame. So feast your eyes on this bad boy. The 2012 Ozoni's Cannibal. But why choose an older frame rather than get something more modern? Well, as I've no doubt mentioned in previous videos, I'm not a fan of modern comp bike geometry. Or more precisely, how high the bottom brackets are. That said, I don't want a frame that's too old with the BB scraping on the floor either. This frame is a decent compromise with a BB height of around 40mm, compared with 60mm or higher on modern frames, which I hope will be a much better fit for me. It's also just a nicely designed frame with some features that I really wanted, like horizontal dropouts, split seat tubes for extra stiffness, and importantly for this build, an internal headset, and more on that soon. And also I won't need to break out the Dremel on this frame either. It already has the weight saving work done for me. I was very fortunate to find this used frame in such great condition. Despite how good it was, I did feel it needed to stand out just a little bit more. I got in touch with Vapour Scotland, based in Grangemouth, and they provided this seriously nice ceramic coating. I've added their web link in the description. They're a great team and I can highly recommend them for any metal prep and coating jobs you have. I then added my signature Huckett frame protection and I think it looks amazing. I even added my stickers to the CNC cutouts too. A total pain in the ass to do, but totally worth it. All in all, I'm stoked with how this frame came out. I can't wait to get it built. So let's not delay, time to get the headset fitted and I'll explain why I particularly needed an internal version. The truth is, I never like to do things the normal way, so I'm going to fit this Hope external cup just to be difficult. Unfortunately, I left my block of my headset tool at home, so I'll have to improvise. But if it's stupid and it works, then you got really lucky. Let's try my luck some more. There must be a few horseshoes in this garage. I can't believe that worked. So, the elephant in the room. Why am I fitting an external cup to an internal frame? I'm sure a few of you know why this Hope cup is special, but for everyone else, it's designed to allow you to fit a tapered fork in a frame made for straight steerers. Handy, as Crewkerz sent me their 26-inch carbon disc fork, which has a tapered steerer and wouldn't have fit this frame otherwise. This fork is perfect for this build, strong, stiff and lightweight. Also comes with a dismount, the lightest Trials disc fork available at the minute. I opted for 9mm open dropouts to allow me to pick more hub options, but they also do a through-axle version for extra stiffness too. So there we go, a tapered fork in a non-tapered frame. What a time we live in. Though a word of warning, this isn't guaranteed to work on every internal headset style head tube. If it curves in too much, it can clash. This frame is pretty close, but it clears just fine. Conveniently, the steerer is the perfect length without cutting, and there's an inbuilt star nut, so no faffing there either. Nice one, Crewkerz. If you're one of the cool ones, you would have been watching my videos and seen this stem at least twice before on previous builds. It will have its own channel soon. You know the drill, a Comus 140mm by 20°. With all the bolts swapped for my favourite element, atomic number 22. I add a 10mm spacer, then the stem. I thought this stem was too low on higher BB frames, but it could be a good fit for this one. I have a solution if not. Weight saving is always fun, so here's the lightest top cap I could find. Made from fibres of atomic element number 6, which, conveniently, is also how much it weighs. Inspired bars on a comp bike? It's quite possible I've gone completely mad. There are lighter carbon trials bars, so why these heavier ones? Well, I simply like the shape. I've used these bars for years and years, and they're what I'm used to. As much as I want to save weight, I also want to feel comfortable, and these bars will help with that. Plus, they allow me to fine-tune how my bike feels. Roll them back for a shorter, higher, streety feel, or tilt them forwards for a stretched out comp bike feel. Plus, they're not really that heavy. This is quite a nice neighbourhood, but I still need to do the bar test, as is tradition. Okay, less getting a bad reputation and more bike building. This definitely isn't your normal comp bike. Though maybe this will help. Looks mean already. I was tempted to do the bottom bracket next, but as my pappy used to quote me, if you've got a frog to eat, don't spend too long looking at it. And I've got a big old frog staring at me regarding the back wheel. Though the good news is, the wheel is already built, so we're not quite dealing with a bullfrog. However, the building part wasn't the worry. This is the same wheel that was on my Ashton and Echo, a selection of Trialtech parts which I know are great. Being sponsored by Light Bicycle, who make carbon rims, it's a shame I can't run a rim brake on them, so I added some carbon wrap on this one to at least pretend I can. And check out the colour-coded nipples. Man, that would sound weird out of context. As usual, if you're new to trials, you may notice the texture on my rim. This is done with an angle grinder to give the pad something to bite onto and give more power. Despite the frame having horizontal dropouts, you still need a method to tensioning the chain. In this case, borrowing an idea from motorbikes and using snail cams. These slide over the hub axle and push against the bolt in the frame, which then pushes the wheel back. They're also helpful for hypnotizing people. You will hit that subscribe button. You will hit the thumbs up. You will head to addyclarkson.com and buy some merch. And back in the room. I didn't stop at the colour-coded nipples. Some orange bolt washers are a nice touch. All pretty easy so far. Slide on a couple of snail cams, thread 2 bolts in. Why all the previous frog talk? Well, what if I told you I'm going to try tubeless? On a comp bike? Inconceivable, I know. To those who have no idea why this is a big deal, then listen up. Comp riders still use inner tubes. Pretty nuts when they run such low pressures and are hitting sharp edges all the time. Punctures are very common. A couple of riders have tried tubeless with mixed results, but most trials rims are single walled and have a lot of weight saving cutouts, which makes seating the tyre and seating it a lot harder. With this rim being double walled and no cutouts, it should be a lot easier to make it tubeless. I've never tried it with a rim this wide before, and I only have a track pump, so I really don't know how well this is going to go. To try and help create a tighter fit, I'm going to add extra tape. This will also help seal the rim join. I'm also adding a couple of extra layers over the valve hole. I'll explain why later. But first, big thanks to Rimpact for helping me protect my rims on all my bikes. If you're going tubeless, then these are ideal. They get extra thanks for this set though. For a rim this wide, 48mm if you're interested, a standard width insert isn't quite wide enough to either protect the rim or support the tyre sidewall. Rimpact were awesome enough to cut down one of their 650B plus size inserts down to 26 inch for me. And it's a perfect size. They also supply their own valves which are designed to be compatible with inserts, because not all valves are. The only issue is these valves are Presta and the rim is Schrader. But that's where this extra tape comes in. It should stop the valve from pushing through the bigger hole. Presta valves are sharp enough just to push through. This makes the hole only as big as it needs to be. Fitting the valve now can make fitting the tyre harder, but I find I can get a better seal as I can push harder while tightening the lock nut. Speaking of tyres, I'm spoiled for choice with a massive 2 to choose from. I've previously used and loved this Jitsi model. It's a good size, decent weight and is very grippy. I'd be happy to use it again. But I'm a sucker for experimenting and couldn't refuse trying the lightest trials tyre I could find. One from V Tyre Co. I mean, if I'm not going to get snake bites, I can afford to use the lighter tyre, right? The only thing that puts me off is the compound feels harder, so maybe grip isn't as good. But then again, Jack Carthy uses it, so it can't be all bad. Now, it's been a while since I tried a bit of tyre fitting trickery. It partly worked. I expected it to be fully inflated though. Like it'd go that easily for me. Fortunately, fitting the Rimpact inserts is pretty easy. But what about the other tyre bead? I can normally fit the tyres easy enough by hand with these inserts, but I've no idea how tight this tyre is. The trick is to lift the tyre in insert and then push the bead under the insert and into the rim's central channel. Turns out with the extra tape, this tyre is a very tight fit, and this is as far as I could get. I had to resort to a tyre lever. The shame. The good thing with these inserts is, even if you do get a puncture, you could still ride with a flat tyre. Before I put any sealant in, I want to see if I can actually inflate it without it. Well, shiver me timbers, it's inflating! No popping beads though, that's usually the sign it's seated well. I'll just have to hope it is. I can hear some air escaping from the bead. I'll add some sealant and hope it either acts as a lube to help pop the bead into place or seal any imperfections if it's just not a great fit. I've had good results with Continental sealants, but also with Stans and Joes. Still a bit of air escaping, which is a concern, but I'll give it a shake and leave it on its side for a while and see if that fixes it. Oh joy, now I get to repeat the process with the front wheel. Although being a genuine light bicycle carbon rim, I know these set up pretty easily. The hub is an Echo TR, which is practically made from atomic number 2, and of course some matching orange bolt washers. Just like the rear wheel, I'm showing off with my tyre selection. Do I go for a front Jitsi, which like the rear version performed really well? Or do I go for the completely unknown Michelin Pilot Slope? I'm going to try the Michelin, purely because I like the funky tread pattern. It's also light, but will it be grippy? Only a single layer of tape needed this time. Fitting of the tyre in insert was smooth. I was tempted not to use an insert to save weight, but I'm playing it safe. I don't want to regret it when doing big gaps to front. Much easier. I spoke too soon. I was suspicious of how easily that went. Turns out the wheel was biding its time and had something up its sleeve. The axle doesn't fit the dropouts. The axle is to blame rather than the fork. For some reason, Echo use a 10mm axle when most forks have 9mm dropouts. Nothing a file can't fix though. A rather neat job if I do say so myself. Fits like a 9mm axle glove. I'm obviously not using a rim brake with this wheel. 26-inch wheeled comp bikes all tend to use front rim brakes for extra bite, weight saving and more accurate feel. But I'm more of a disc brake fan, mainly because I hate not being able to slow down without sounding like a banshee. I got this rotor thinking it would be a nice match to the frame, but on inspection it's a different enough orange to make me question it. I then saw this one on eBay, which I think looks cool. I've no idea what the brand is, but I like it enough to try it out. I wonder if my rear tyre's still inflated. I'm equally shocked and delighted. Another hurdle though. The wheel won't slide all the way in. Might be too much paint, so I removed some with a file. While I have the file, nice rhyme, I'm going to try and level my brake mounts. Like usual, I'll explain why soon. I just like teasing you. The wheel now fits perfectly. I love how tight fitting everything is. Time to fit the BB. I spent all my YouTube earnings on this Jitsi titanium one. Apparently it takes a lot of effort to mine and refine titanium into stuff. With a width of only 123mm, I think they must have run out of it. This is possibly a little too narrow, but we'll see. I found these Trialtech cranks in a drawer in this garage, which is pretty handy. Excellent cranks, but not the biggest Q factor, and that's how wide they are at the pedal threads, which combined with the narrow BB could be a really tight fit on the brake calipers. Again, if you're new to comp trials, they don't use a standard mountain bike drivetrain. They have a fixed rear sprocket and a freewheel threaded to the cranks. And this is the freewheel I'm using, a trial specific Echo titanium model. Maybe they used the missing titanium from the bottom bracket to make this. 108 engagement points with powerful springs makes this excellent for trials, and the titanium centre makes it the lightest freewheel can get, if you can find one that is. It's 18 tooth to match the 15 on the rear, which is a pretty standard ratio for 26-inch wheeled comp bikes. It has a lot of drag though due to the strong springs, so don't get one if you want a fast rolling bike. Yet more titanium courtesy of this Trialtech bash guard. Not the strongest, but it will take a few hits and weighs very little. To fit, I simply slide it on before the freewheel. Be really careful if you're fitting your own freewheel. The threads are quite fine and it's easy to ruin them by not lining up straight. I usually turn the freewheel backwards first until it drops into place and then turn it the correct way. Sometimes the threads can be a tight fit, so if you're 100% sure it's straight, you can use a rag to get a better grip. Before you get to the end of the thread, it's worth positioning the bash to the correct place. This style is only held in position by the tightening of the freewheel, and once it's tight, it isn't an easy job to move it again. As I ride the bike, the freewheel will tighten up another quarter turn at least and rotate the bash at the same time. So I need to predict this and position the bash so it will end up in the right place once everything's fully tight. Chain time. Some comp riders use the scariest drilled out lightweight chains available, but I wouldn't dare, so it's a stronger, heavier KMC Z1E HX for me. Snapping chains can be extremely dangerous, and using cogs this small puts a huge leverage on a chain, so I don't like to take any chances. I'd rather have a slightly heavier chain and a bit more reliability. And this is how the snail cams work. Drive side to tighten the chain, non-drive side to center the wheel. Then tighten the axle to lock everything in place. Pretty simple. With the freewheel on the crank, the chain is constantly moving, which looks weird, but in a really cool way. Like I mentioned earlier, the narrow BB and short Q factor of these cranks doesn't leave much room for the brake calipers. I'm building a brake from parts, and I think I have a solution though. I'm going to use some Echo calipers, which are shorter than Magura versions, which should give me the room I need. Echo will also be my clamps of choice. This TR model is simple and light, and it's also the reason I filed my brake mounts level. They also fit this carbon Trialtech booster without needing long spacers, which makes things neat and even stiffer. I mentioned I was making the brake from parts, so here's what I'll be using. Like I mentioned, the brake calipers from this Echo TR brake. I'm not using the levers, as these can leak, but the calipers are reasonably reliable. So instead, I'm going to use a Trialtech Sport lever. It has a forged body with well thought out bleed port, a smaller piston for more power, and is known to be reliable. Perfect. And smartly, they have a solid back to the blade to avoid cutting your knuckles in extreme moves. Sticking with Trialtech, they also provided me with some clear hosing, pretty handy for seeing any air bubbles. And a hose splitter. This doesn't change the brake's power or feel, but can make the routing neater. It's pretty cool, so I had to have one, and that's the way my brain works. Traditionally, Magura brake clamps rely on a ball socket design with a plastic washer around the cylinder. The advantage being you can adjust the angle of your caliper if the frame needs it. The disadvantage is that those extra parts can wear or deform and make the brake shift position or impossible to adjust. This Echo clamp style does away with the ball socket design and simply clamps directly to the cylinder. But because there's no angle adjustment, you're relying on the frame being totally straight for the pads hitting flat against the rim. Filing the brake mounts flat earlier helps make everything line up a lot straighter. Another frog quote: if you have 2 frogs to eat, then eat the big one first. Making the rear wheel tubeless was the big frog, but building and bleeding this brake was the second frog, and it's not much smaller. I have to press in 6 barbed fittings to the hose, so I bought this tool to help. It worked great on the first couple, but I struggled with the rest of them. I eventually got them all fitted, even if they don't all look super neat, but now it's time to bleed the brake with some Trialtech fluid. It's possible it's radioactive, but it's also really thin and makes the brakes extremely responsive. Other than the dodgy hose fittings, which did take my full weight with pulling on them, so it should be safe, the bleed went easily. That frog got munched. I'll be using some brake pads I made myself, made from polyurethane, which has a much higher abrasive resistance and high friction, perfect for a rim grind. Feels great, and the cranks clear nicely. Result! With the back brake fitted, let's do the front. I'm just thankful I don't have to make this from scratch. I'm going for a Magura MT6, but I am concerned that a 180mm rotor might not be powerful enough, so don't be surprised if I end up with an MT7 on in the future. This brake was a tadpole, fitted with no drama other than a slight bend in the rotor. But I easily got that fixed. Just the contact points left now, and how perfect are these ODI long neck grips. I've had these for ages, waiting for the perfect orange bike to fit them to. I knew hoarding was worth it. I used just a little bit of disc brake cleaner to slide them on. And Bob's your fake orange tanned uncle. And lastly, my standing rectangles. These are my last bit of bling, some titanium axled Echo caged guys. They almost feel fake at 244 grams for the pair. Here's hoping they're going to be strong enough. And we're done. Et voila! Your dinner's ready. And what a result! I wanted a unique bike, and that's exactly what I got. Amazingly, the rear tyre is still inflated, and I hope it stays that way. You're probably curious of the weight. It definitely feels like the lightest comp bike I've had, but without a front rim brake, carbon bars, light chain, or even lightweight tubes rather than inserts and sealant, it's never going to be as light as a purebred comp bike. I don't have a scale, so I'm estimating low to mid 8 kilograms. I'll confirm in the description when I get to weigh it. So, how does it feel? It feels flipping awesome. Brakes need bedding in, but I'm excited to get riding it and entering some comps. Hopefully this is a bike I can actually get on with. Huge thanks to Tartybikes, Crewkerz, Vapour Scotland, Light Bicycle, Trialtech, Huckett and Rimpact for the help with this build. Let me know what you think of it in the comments and I'll make a video riding it ASAP. Thanks for watching, have a great week and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. So this week I'm going to name some of my newest Patreon followers. We have Sean Devaney, Tom Arikawa, Robert Adamson, DG, Dotism and John. Thanks so much to those guys and every single one of my other patrons for supporting this channel and making it possible to make these videos. Have an absolutely fantastic week to you and everyone else, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.